Welcome back. You're watching Business Lunch. Now, sources tell CNBC-TV18 that LIC will be scheduling a call with the management of Adani Group to understand the company's strategy at this point. And note that this comes amid a sell-off in its shares. Yash Jain joins us with all the latest details. Tell us, Yash.
Well, Nisha, it was January 30th when we last spoke to the LIC management, and that time they had made it very clear they are long-term investors in the market. They don't, act on trigger selling or trigger buying, and they will remain with their investments for a longer term. It's been about 7 trading sessions since then. The Adani Group stocks have seen a ferocious selling, and we try to reconnect with our sources in LIC to understand that in the last 7 trading sessions, if they've sold any of their holdings in the Adani Group companies. What we understand from our sources is that LICs remain with that investment practice of being long-term. They've not sold any of their holdings in the Adani Group stocks, let's say in the last 7 trading sessions. Also, what we're going to understand is that they plan to schedule a call with Adani management. This could happen next week, and this will be to understand the strategy at Adani Group with respect to various things in terms of business, their debt, outlook for business, on the stock price. All of those things are expected to be discussed between the largest institutional investor of the country and Adani Group management. This is what we've been picking up, and of course they have significant holdings in Adani Group stocks, but LIC out of its total AUM holds just about 0.97% in Adani Group. Also, as far as equity AUM is concerned, it stands at about 88% investment in Adani Group companies.
All right, Yash, thanks a lot for bringing us that latest. So we will keep, tracking this and bringing you updates on this as well. But sticking with the Adani story, the Adani Group's troubles are also causing disruptions in the Parliament. So the opposition was seeking discussions over the developments in the Adani saga, and the Parliament had to be adjourned over persistent demands for a joint parliamentary committee or Supreme Court-led investigation into this matter. So Parikshit is joining in to tell us what's really going on there. Parikshit?
Well, this is the main issue unifying the opposition in the budget session. This week has been a washout, and we believe that opposition parties are now considering to, yes, participate in the debate on the motion of thanks on the President's address, but use that opportunity to expose the government and demand answers from the government over the Adani controversy. Mallikarjun Kharge, the President of the Congress Party, has demanded a day-to-day update on the probe into the Adani Group. He has demanded either a JPC or a Supreme Court appointed probe into the government investments or PSU bank investments into the Adani Group. In the next few days, it's quite likely that opposition parties, at least 16 of them, may ask questions as to how much money has gone from public institutions like LIC, public sector banks like SBI and others into the Adani Group, and what is the status of those loans as well. There were at least 9 parties which gave a notice for suspension of the House to discuss the investments into the Adani Group. This was not accepted by the chairman of the Rajya Sabha or the speaker of the Lok Sabha. But yes, we can expect disruptions on this issue in the days to come. The government on its part says they do not need to reply or take up the issue of a private company on the floor of the House.
All right, Parikshit, thanks so much for getting us the latest coming in on this development. Let's also listen in to what Parliamentary Affairs Minister Prahlad Joshi had to say on the Adani saga.
हमारा सरकार का लेना देना कुछ नहीं है. There is absolutely no connection. And राष्ट्रपति का अभिभाषण का चर्चा प्रायोरिटी रहता है. चर्चा शुरू करने के लिए तैयार है तो उनके पास कुछ मुद्दा नहीं है.
All right, that is the word coming in from the Parliamentary Affairs Minister on what's going on with the Adani Group, saying that the government does not have any role there. A quick look at the markets. We're seeing an 80-point gains. We've come significantly off the day's low. That's looking quite good. But the pain in the mid-cap index really continues. It's down 1.3% almost for the mid-cap index. A quick look at the Divi's lab stock as well, because like we were pointing out, very disappointing set of earnings coming through from Divi's, and that stock continues to reel under pressure, still down over 9%. So that's the kind of cut that you're seeing on Divi's lab after earnings came in well below what was expected, and there's been a sharp contrast contraction on the margins as well, where it's come in at just around 23%, 24% versus last year's figure of around 44%. So we are going to wind down on Business Lunch on that note. Thanks for tuning in, and closing bell comes up after this short break.
Brought to you by Volkswagen Tiguan.
Friends, I want to share some good news with all of you. Firstly, like always, we have performed very well this time also.
But what will we get?
Secondly, we shall invest in employee benefit.
Come on, now tell us what will we get?
And thirdly, we shall invest in LIC's group funded plans.
Great, we'll get everything! Now, leave encashment, gratuity, and along with pension, our future is secure.
Yes, employees' real benefit lies in LIC pension and group scheme.
टेंशन किस बात की? सेंचुरी MDF का लो एमिशन प्रीमियम प्लस है ना, हायर डेंसिटी है, वाटर रेजिस्टेंट भी है, यानी ये है जहाँ नो टेंशन वहाँ.
Low emission premium plus by Century ProWood.
What if you were a major transit system facing cyber attacks? So you partner with IBM to keep your data, network, and apps protected. Now you can tackle threats without coming to a halt. Let's create cybersecurity that keeps your business on track. IBM, let's create.
When challenges put you off, you put life back on. Full on.
Life on with Live life now full on.
Begin your journey towards a healthy tomorrow with Omron today.
The biggest budget exclusive. FM's first post-budget interview to a private news network. What does the budget mean for the investor, the consumer, the taxpayer, the economy? FM Nirmala Sitharaman speaks to Network 18 Editor-in-Chief Rahul Joshi. The FM interview, live and exclusive.
Co-presented by LIC, Har Pal Aapke Saath. Driven by XUV 400, we fun, we fast, we electric. Co-powered by Panasonic, create today, enrich tomorrow. In association with Bandhan Bank, Aapka Bhala, Sabki Bhalai. Knowledge partner, Grant Thornton Bharat.
Grow your business in partnership with Meta and Startup Street.
We've been able to build Clovia into a brand that it is today because we chose to speak to our customers directly, online or otherwise, and Facebook, Instagram were a big part of this journey. So a sizable number of our new customers are still coming from Facebook. Or Facebook and Instagram. It is our first point of contact. So today, starting from when we were doing just maybe about 1,000 orders in a month when we started, today a Clovia bra is on its way to a customer every 2 seconds. So I'm speaking to you, 1, 2, sold.
Grow your business in partnership with Meta and Startup Street.
When it comes to making your drive electric, never settle for the ordinary. Go EV with India's #1 EV, Nexon EV. Proven and trusted by over 40,000 customers. Feature loaded and safe, offering a premium driving experience. Now with enhanced range and an exciting new price. Nexon EV, drive what drove India electric.
Invest once and enjoy guaranteed maturity with life cover with LIC's Dhan Varsha, a single premium plan for your family's security and prosperity.
Change is the only constant in today's world. To win in unpredictable markets, beat inflation, and protect your finances from geopolitical risks, you need to build a volatility-proof portfolio. And that's why we're back with Nawab and the Wizard. Watch Ramesh Damani in conversation with influential market veterans as they share their insights and analysis of the complex world order, the future of investing, and building a portfolio for an ever-changing world. Wizards of the Street at these times.
Powered by LIC. हर पल आपके साथ. Co-powered by Century ProWood MDF, the wood of the future.
Hang Seng is down 1.5%. That's the biggest loser there.
Stocks will now be subject to more stringent rules, one of them being that intraday trading will require 100% margin upfront.
Hindujas are in the process of making an application to the RBI to hike their stake in IndusInd Bank to up to 26%.
September was the highest growth rate, which was 20%, and this time it is 18.4%.
100 points higher on the Nifty is what we have. 17,718 is where we start.
2 years, you'll find that India is the best performing market. We have fallen the least.
I think the biggest factor which marked the categories declining was inflation.
Frontline indices are holding up in the green pretty okay. In fact, the Nifty and the Sensex are trying to inch up.
The stand for LIC remains the same. They haven't sold any of their holdings in Adani Group stocks despite the ferocious fall which has come in about the last 6 to 7 trading sessions.
I think we've seen a perfect storm of sorts.
Market recovers from the day's low even as sentiment on the street remains impacted by concerns around the Adani Group.
Well, the team is back. You're with us here on a fresh new edition of Closing Bell. I'm Prashant. With me, my colleagues Surabhi, Reema, and Nigel. All of us are here in the studios. Guys, hi. Guys, hi.
Hi,
Yesterday you called us the Marvel team. What about today?
Today it's just the team. It's dialing it down a notch, but it's okay. Guys, before we start getting excited about the weekend, I mean, there are some, the critical 2 hours left. And in that, we will, of course, hear from State Bank of India.
The Finance Minister.
Finance Minister, 2 o'clock, please keep your date with us because 2 o'clock we will be getting, of course, live to that interview with the Finance Minister. And the markets are where they are. Still 0.5% up on the Nifty. Mid-caps have been sulking right from the morning. That picture hasn't changed.
Yeah.
But I guess at least there's no massive fall. There's no massive decline. For what it's worth, at least the rest of the market is holding up, right, Prashant?
It looks like it's stabilized, right?
Yeah.
Even when at one point the Adani Enterprises stock was down 40%, the market was flat to slightly higher. And from there on, it's actually become a little better. I mean, actually, the Nifty is doing just fine. Bank Nifty is actually doing even better. And this is even as, the Adani Group stocks are lower. And this is a point we've made from yesterday morning onwards that, you can't expect the market to react with the same level of intensity to repeated bad news in the same way, day after day after day. I think we've had those reactions for 2 or 3 days, very sharp ones. And eventually the market kind of moves on. Banks is an interesting pack with SBI, which will report over the next couple of hours. I think, it could set the tone for the rest of the banks as well, because there is still a little bit of hesitation. That's the one space you speak with investors, and we'll ask that question to our guests over the next hour or so. And everyone says, well, this is the space to hunt for opportunities. It's not showing up on the screen. And I think once you have the clarity, hopefully more clarity from the SBI numbers, I think maybe that changes. Broader markets are suffering though. 2:1 declines to advances, which means the breadth is negative, and there are, small caps, mid caps, etc., are not doing as well as what large caps are doing. And later today, we get the jobs number out of the US. After all of the rally in the US, I think this becomes important. Either it reinforces the optimism or this smacks things down, right? In a big way. The positive, if the number is good, maybe the rally extends, but if it is hot, actually, if the numbers are bad, good is bad, bad is good. So either way, this is an important one, which is going to be, which we'll watch as they come out later at US market open time.
Well, we'll wait by Prashant for the SBI numbers. Just take a look at the Bank of Baroda numbers. They're looking very, very good. We have 2 numbers, the PAT and the NI. Both of them have beat our estimates by around 5 to around 7% odd. So let's pull both those 2 up. The asset quality as well has improved, both the gross NPAs as well as the net NPAs, and that's looking quite good as well. To give you a couple of numbers. Well, in terms of NI, we were working with a number of around 10,300 crores. It's coming at around 10,800 crores. In terms of a net profit, we were working with close to around 3,400 crores. It's coming at around 3,850 crores. So that's more than a 10% beat out there. And improving asset quality, waiting by for the slippage number, Kotak's estimates were in the vicinity of around 4,500 crores odd. So we'll wait by for that. But these numbers look good, guys.
Absolutely. And if this is a precursor for what's to come from State Bank of India, then the hopes are running high. But by the way, the PSU banking index, at one point of time, the Nifty PSU banking index was down close to 2%. But from the day's low, the PSU banking index has recovered and now is back in the green. And that's fueling an up move even in the benchmark indices. The Nifty is now back above 17,700, 0.5% higher on the key indices there. Just a quick word on a couple of stocks. So Adani Enterprises, the low today was very close to triple digits. 1,017 was the low in Adani Enterprises in the cash market. Almost getting to that 1,000 rupee mark. But since then, of course, it's seen a recovery of 350 points. The other one is Divi's laboratory. It's fallen off like a cliff. Margins at a multi-quarter low, 24% versus 44% on a year-on-year basis. Profits down 66%, and the stock, after losing 27-30% last year, has fallen another 13-14% in trade today. So that's another pocket that we are tracking, and we will get more clarity on that. By the way, it's also taking down a couple of the other pharma names. So Dr. Reddy's, Cipla are falling down in sympathy. On the flip side, financials have come in for a lot of buying. Bajaj Finance, Finserv, HDFC Bank, HDFC Limited also up and about in trade. Strong gains coming through.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just waiting by to see if we get more details on BOB. Asset quality overall has improved quite a bit. The slippage number that some of the brokerages on the street are working with is around 4,500 crores. So we need to see if they've actually, done better than that and whether they've had good recoveries aiding that performance. But for now, the BOB stock is reacting very handsomely. They had 19% loan growth in the last quarter in Q2. So let's see if that momentum has remained intact as well on loan growth. We're still waiting by for more details on BOB.
Yeah, I think we'll get Abhishek in just a short while, a couple of minutes or so from now. He'll fill us in with further details out there. One input that he's given us is that the provisions are high quarter on quarter, and the other income is the one that's driving that PAT beat. So we'll have to look at those numbers more closely. But asset quality has improved more or less, and maybe the beat is not as big as we're thinking because of that higher other income. But Abhishek will join in the next minute or so. In the meanwhile, let's find out how you position yourself for the final hour of trade. Rahul Mundar joins us. Hi Rahul, good afternoon. Well, good to see markets in the green. We're trading with a gain of around 70 points, but we have got close to around 120 minutes odd. So who's to say that this holds? Do you think we're good for a move to revisit maybe that 17,950, or is it slippy slide back to around 17,400?
Yes, I think that's the million-dollar question. And, I kind of rewind about 2 or 3 weeks ago, where I cited that probably the market will come closer to the 200-day moving average and test those levels. And, that's what really happened. The budget created that dramatic drop. And, thereafter, we kind of stayed sideways and we're picking up. So I think, the good part is we did that test of the 200-day moving average. We took support there. So I think this move up should carefully be looked at. And, we need to watch whether this is going to move up and break out. Now, if I'm a short-term trader, if I'm looking at the Nifty spot, 17,750, that's a key level for me to watch. We're already at 17,720. That's rather close. I think, sustaining these levels, getting past the 750 marker would really clear my doubts that we will enter a short-term rally up to about 18,100 levels. So my bets, I may be early on this, but my bets are the way the market's behaving, the way it responded from those supports, we are probably headed to 18,100. Keep a stop loss below 17,600 on a closing basis if you're going long. The Nifty Bank still looks a little spotty to me. I really like it to be above 41,000. And having said that, I'm going to watch the way SBI, which is a heavyweight within that Nifty Bank, responds. And, of course, you've got the news event out. But my levels in terms of technicals would be, can we sustain a level of, 543? Can we stay above that level? That's what I'm going to watch for. And if so, I would be willing to take long positions past 518. Coming to some stock-specific ideas within this market, going beyond just the indices, Reliance. And again, I'm taking a bit of an early call here, but, we've had a sharp correction. we've retested those intermediate bottoms around the 2300 marker. So keep a stop loss below 2300, maybe at 2300 itself, and look at targets about 2360 come in. Bharti Airtel, another stock that I've been watching, been range bound the last week or two, but that low that it made on 11 January was with remarkable volumes, and that low's held. It's respected the 200-day average, bounced up from the right level. So I like what's happening. So with a 770 stop loss, one could be looking at targets of about 820, 825 on it. And the final buy would be on M&M. I'm going to recommend a buy for a 1420 target. Keep a stop loss below a 1315.
All right. Rahul, thank you very much. The market continues to do well. We're up 120 odd points now. 30, 40 odd point swings, pullbacks, and then recoveries, etc. But after that, it is, the buying is there and it shows up. Let's bring in Abhishek, who's joining in. Bank of Baroda declaring numbers, and Abhishek has gone through the results in some detail. First cut, of course, but Abhishek, take us through what you make of them.
Well, it's a strong result coming out from Bank of Baroda. However, the weak point is the loan growth. Now, loan growth on a sequential basis is just 2% when compared to industry average growth of more than 5% on a quarter-on-quarter basis. So that's a weak point in the results. However, other parameters remain strong. The NII growth is about 6.3% quarter-on-quarter. It has come in at 10,818 crore, 4% above our poll. The other income has also bounced back. Now, the large bounce in other income would be from the treasury operations, given the fact that last quarter they had a treasury loss of 435 crore. So if that has turned profitable, that might have driven other income this time around. Provisions have been elevated this quarter, so it is at 2,400 crore when compared to 1,600 odd crores in the previous quarter, which means that their asset quality has improved. So these two indicate that their credit costs would have increased on a sequential basis, and also the fact that if provisions are high and asset quality is improving, it indicates that there might have been higher write-offs this time around. So the profits are at 3,852 crores. We were working with a number of 3,433 crores. So there is an upbeat, or they have been 12% higher than our poll. Asset quality is also improved, and net interest margin is up 4 basis points quarter-on-quarter. Back to you.
Got that, Abhishek. Yes, and that's an interesting point that you made, that perhaps the reason why provisions are higher is because they've just written off the bad stuff. We'll wait for the details on that one, the write-offs, the recoveries, all of that should come through. But right now, the stock's reacting really well, 4.5% higher. One stock that is not reacting well at all is Divi. It's a crash landing there, so to speak, 10 to 11% down, and no sign of recovery. Massive miss right from the top line down. Let's go across to Ekta to understand what's happened here. Ekta, you were anyway expecting a weak performance, but I think this is quite a howler.
Well, yes, there's no two ways of calling it anything else. It is a howler for Divi's Labs. It is a complete top-down miss, and it's a big operating miss. So it's not that much of a miss in terms of revenue. Revenue is down 31.5% year-on-year. The street was anticipating around a 29% decline this time. But the big disappointment is the EBITDA, which is down 63% on a year-on-year basis. And the street was anticipating around 591 odd crores. It's come in at 408 odd crores. Margins have come in at probably historical or multi-quarter lows for sure, at around 23.9%. Remember that the peak margins for the company have been around 44% just in the past couple of quarters itself. Now, profit decelerated because of the operating margin performance, so it's down 66%. The street was anticipating around a 47% decline. So despite weak expectations, it's come in even weaker than what the street had anticipated. Q-on-Q as well, margins have come in at 23.9 versus 33.5%. Now, 9 months, revenue is down 10%, margins 32.3%, profit down 27%. What this is telling you is that the COVID-19 opportunity has dwindled completely for the company, but is the base business impacted on a structural basis? That's what we probably need to find out. In terms of the valuations, the stock is down around 36.5% from its 52-week high. It's trading at around 35 times versus a one-year peak of around 55 times on an FY23 PE. So you can see the kind of destruction that you've seen in the valuations as well. They do have a conference call at 2 p.m. this afternoon. More details, and I'm sure this conference call is going to be very widely tracked this time.
Okay, all right. Thanks a lot for that. Ekta, stock down to around 30 times multiple. Remember, at its peak, It was closed on 4,600, so stock has lost 38%. From its peak. But let's try to understand those numbers better. We have Vishal Manchanda as well as Deepan Mehta who join in. Hi Vishal and Deepan, good afternoon gentlemen. Vishal, you go first. What are you making of these numbers? And everything's good at a price, right? How much of the bad news is factored in? These numbers are disappointing, but at some point of time, will there be some value that will emerge? And also, what are the key points you're looking forward to in this con call at 2 p.m.?
Right. As Ekta pointed, we were expecting a weak performance this quarter. So on revenue, it's broadly kind of not that disappointing. So it's 11% below consensus. But what this quarter essentially reflects is the base number. So this quarter does not include any support from the COVID product that they were supplying to their partner in the US. So that is essentially out, and not now what we are seeing is the base performance of the business. So this is much weaker than they traditionally used to do in their base business. So this also reflects the quantum of pressure that Divi is facing on account of inflation and freight costs. So this is actually below the base performance they used to do prior to COVID getting into their numbers, COVID products getting into their numbers.
But Vishal, can the company recover from the kind of weakness that they are seeing in the base business? Could this be the bottom for the base business, or does it get worse from here on? What are the trends?
It seems so. This would be probably the lowest quarter, and then we'll see an improvement every quarter from here on.
And by how much would you need to pare down your EPS estimates? Ekta tells us the F5. Go ahead.
Yeah, probably I think another 10 to 15% correction is expected in the EPS.
Okay, so Vishal, going forward, would you look at, Divi's, or basically in your pecking order, where will you place it, given the fact that it does have valuation comfort?
So we have a sell on the stock. So it's corrected. It's closer to our target price now. So we were close to around 2,700 in target price. So it's closer to that point. Now we'll have to probably the commentary is important in terms of so they have a few things that are lined up for the future. They are going to supply key starting material for certain products, and they have these iodine based products also lined up for supplies in the future. So basically how these products translate into revenues would people would wait and see, and then probably numbers would start shaping around those around how things happen around these new opportunities that Divi's has.
All right, Vishal, we leave it there. Thank you very much. Good conversation and a quick view on Divi's, which is taking a very, very sharp cut. Deepan Mehta is with us. Deepan, good to speak with you as always. Thanks very much. We've of course been we've been talking about the impact of what's happening on the Adani Group on the broader market, but for the group themselves, the two stocks of interest which we've heard a lot of people mention is Ambuja and Adani Ports. I don't know if you have any view on these two after a full week and almost 7 days of this right now, and prices have come off sharply. Both these, the port company and the cement company. Your thoughts?
Yeah, Prashant, thank you for having me on your show. I think the common thread here is that valuations at least are reasonable for both these companies. And Adani Port, especially given its position and the scope to increase its market share, because a lot of the ports which they have acquired and which they have built, there is scope to expand capacity there and increase the utilization levels. And these are high operating profit, operating leverage businesses. So, and considering that import-export business should improve, I think that investors looking at least Adani Port in a favorable light, because mostly its valuations are cheap. When it comes to Ambuja, I think some amount of nervousness has been addressed when they said that none of the stock of ACC or Ambuja has been pledged. And with Ambuja, you also get the benefit of buying into ACC as well. And there's already the expectation that at some point in time, both companies may be merged. And we understand these companies very well. I think Ambuja, ACC have been around for decades, even before Adani came into the picture. And there are easy comparables for this for these businesses. And now the way they have corrected, I think both the companies have reached attractive valuations. So if somebody has a positive view on cement, and mind you, we don't have a positive view on cement, but if somebody has a positive view on cement, then certainly these two companies are available at reasonably attractive valuations compared to, say, an Ultratech or, for that matter, Shree Cement. And then you can always expect these companies to expand rapidly their capacity, and that they've been lagging in capacity expansion prior to the change of ownership. But that may get changed going forward also.
You know, guys, timing is everything, right? I remember when Adani Group took over both these two assets, the entire talk was there'll be integration from the group entity. Now they've bought some coal, and it's going to be, you know, they're saying they won't have to pay any money till the middle of the year. That's till June. But they're prepaid and they're saying we're going to save money. But now, because of the timing of this particular announcement, Street is saying that why did they prepay? What is the benefit? So they're going to be having a con call next week. So timing is everything. At one point of time, everyone was building in synergy benefits. They'll buy coal from the group entity and it'll be great news. Now suddenly they're actually buying coal from the group entity. But you're questioning the timing, you're questioning the rate, you're questioning why are they prepaying. So, you know, let's see how this goes. But as Deepan said, they are not positive on the cement space on the whole, but valuation-wise, well, you know, that's it's come to an interesting point. And later this evening on the editors' roundtable, I'll put out a piece on this itself. You know, is value emerging in both these two stocks? You stay tuned for that. But Deepan, you know, the other number that came out just around 20-25 minutes or so ago was Bank of Baroda. The stock is up close to around 4% as we speak. Abhishek points out that on the loan growth side, maybe it's lagging a little bit. Though asset quality improved, you know, and valuation-wise, we know these PSUs have trade at a discount in comparison to the bigger names. Your view on the banking space, particularly Bank of Baroda?
I think it still remains a trading bet, Nigel, and so do all the other PSU stocks. And I'm sure SBI also come out a very good set of numbers, and you could expect a trading rally as well over there as well. But one thing which comes to mind is that the entire industry is getting more and more competitive when it comes to lending as well as when it comes to raising deposits as well. And that's where I think where private sector banks may have an edge. End of the day, I think technology, manpower, services, systems, I think all of these do come into play. And just because the PSU banks have cleaned up their balance sheet, have got reasonable capital adequacy, doesn't mean that they are in a far better position to compete against the private sector banks and the NBFCs and the new generation fintech companies. So from that point of view, I feel that I'm more comfortable buying the private sector banks. I think the numbers which came from the larger ones, the mid-cap ones, were very impressive. Valuations also are reasonable compared to their historical levels. And it's just that, you know, you expect the private sector banks to produce secular, visible, stable earnings over the next several quarters. But the same cannot be said for the PSU banks. And if you compare the PSU banks' loan growth or deposit growth or some of the other parameters, they are still lagging the private sector banks. The only thing in favor of PSU banks is the valuation, but that's known to everyone. And you may have that further one-time correction to mean further expansion of their PE price to book. But that's about it. But from a longer-term perspective, 3-year, 5-year holding, you're better off in the private sector banks.
Okay, well, that's the word on some of the bank names. Market's still holding up about 0.7% higher. We will take a very quick break. As we do that break, by the way, just an update. Moody's came out with a statement on the Adani Group as well. A lot of rating agencies are actually now talking about it. Fitch had a statement to make, and Moody's, we're flashing it right now. The last part of that statement is actually the operative part, which the market would also take note of. And I'm just quoting from the statement. These adverse developments are likely to reduce the group's ability to raise capital to fund committed capex or refinance maturing debt over the next 1 to 2 years. Moody's is basically saying the capex can still be deferred. And then they're saying the rated entities do not have significant maturing debt until FY 2025. So the fact that there are no maturities in the near future, that's a positive. The capex can be deferred, but Moody's is noting that the group's ability to raise fresh capital could be impacted by the developments that have happened. So that's Moody's on Adani.
No view on the rating itself, right? And
no,
I think we heard
no
from,
rating action right
we
now.
heard from CRISIL also earlier.
Yeah.
I think we heard from
Fitch
also make a comment.
Yeah.
So at this point, and this is a big one, the rating agencies and what they do, For example, I mean, if PSU banks start to ask the group to, sort of prepay loans to reduce leverage, etc., it may put pressure. But none of that is happening at this stage. And what we're hearing from rating agencies is also that, what's going on does not have a significant impact on their assessment so far. So that is, I think, important to take note of. For group companies, I mean, that flash, I think, Nigel, for cement, it's the critical one, right? I mean, the expectation was that Abuja Cement will add a lot of capacity. But if all this now sort of cuts down their ambition in terms of adding capacity, what does that mean for the stock? It's okay, but what does it mean for the sector and maybe a company like Ultratech? I think we were discussing that. That day Ultratech went up sharply. The expectation is that that could see a multiple expansion because of all of this.
So I'll tell you what, in the last 10 years or so that I'm tracking this sector, 12 years or so, ACC and Ambuja Cements, they couldn't get any market share. It was taken by Ultratech, Shree and Dalmia. So on the day when this deal was announced, that's Adani taking over both these two assets, those stocks were down while both these two were higher. So the talk was that these two are going to get re-rated. Now suddenly, what we've seen in the last 10 days or so is they have been doing well. Dalmia is up close to 2% today. You have Shree that's popped up a little bit. Ultratech after a sell-off, it's popped up. So now it appears that, the street is finding more comfort till this dust settles with regard to the Adani Group, to stick to those two, larger names, whether it's Ultratech or Shree. Dalmia has a valuation comfort as well. On the other point, Prashant, from 70 million tons, they were talking about going to 140 million tons. The problem is some of those smaller companies, they've got re-rated because maybe there'll be a buyout. If that doesn't happen, if the group cannot do that, then that'll be a bit of an issue.
70 to 140, double.
140, yeah. And just one more point before we slip into that break is organically, they have the limestone capacity to add roughly around 20 million tons. That is no inorganic growth. Organically, they have the limestone to expand as well. So let's see which way they go. But for the time being, all that is in the air. Let the group settle down. And then, in fact, we'll talk about this. For the time being, I'll tell you guys what we'll do. We'll slip into a short break. When you come back, we'll get you more on the markets.
Namaste, bete.
Auntie, we are missing you.
Nice. Look, he's
on his way, I'm sure.
Sorry.
Forget sorry, show us your gift.
It's right here. It's many birthday gifts in one birthday gift.
How is that?
LIC's Dhanrekha policy. Guaranteed benefits, money back, full payout on maturity, and premium payment only till half term. Then the missus can plan whatever she wishes. Jewelry shopping, house renovation, holiday.
For that, you'll come on time, na?
Guaranteed. LIC Dhanrekha. Khushiyon ka tohfa.
It's the electric SUV with the fastest acceleration in India. It's the most spacious in the C segment, and it can be yours now. Starts at rupees 15.99 lakhs. Bookings open on 26th January 2023.
When it all began, I had only a few runs on the scoreboard and fewer spectators in the stands. And then what? I worked harder, and that's how from Saurav, I became. When you live up to expectations, then winning people's trust is possible. And trust results in Bandhan. Like Bandhan Bank, aapka bhala, sabki bhalai.
Malabar Gold and Diamonds continues its global expansion drive and opened its 300th showroom in Dallas, USA. On this occasion, Malabar Group Chairman extended his heartfelt gratitude towards all customers. Upholding the ideal of Make in India, market to the world, the group aims to showcase Indian handcrafted jewelry to the world and become the #1 global jewelry retailer. The group will soon begin its operations in UK, Bangladesh, Australia, Canada, Egypt, Turkey and South Africa.
When timeless European design meets cutting-edge technology, it's QO. QO, European bath lounges.
Bali, here I come. Beda, check the weather in Bali. Passport? Where is my passport?
Today 23 degrees, tomorrow 24.
Not today or tomorrow, after 3 months. Khanna uncle is taking all of us to Bali. He has got some solid investment tip. Doubles the money in 3 months.
Let me guess. He's received some kind of hot SMS tip, right?
Correct. How did you know?
I receive such SMSs all the time.
Acha?
If these SMSs were reliable, we'd be on a world tour every 6 months, na? Papa, relying on anonymous SMS tip? Be prepared to take a dip.
So this won't be used at all?
Oh.
सोच कर, समझ कर, invest कर. When it comes to making your drive electric, never settle for the ordinary. Go EV with India's #1 EV, Nexon EV. Proven and trusted by over 40,000 customers. Feature loaded and safe, offering a premium driving experience. Now with enhanced range and an exciting new price. Nexon EV. Drive what drove India electric. Yeah, Ajay, look at your dad. Will we be the same at his age?
Absolutely yes, if we plan our future like him.
How?
My father had invested in LIC's Jeevan Akshay, which gives immediate and guaranteed annuity at regular intervals, that too for life.
Wow. But do we have to wait until his age?
Absolutely not. We recently invested in LIC's new Jeevan Shanti, which gives deferred annuity, which means regular income after some years.
I see.
LIC.
LIC's annuity plans give 10 annuity options and flexibility in receiving regular income. LIC, हर पल आपके साथ.
This is TV18 and you're watching CNBC-TV18.
Co-presented by LIC, Har Pal Aapke Saath. Driven by XUV 400, we fun, we fast, we electric. Co-powered by Panasonic, create today, enrich tomorrow. In association with Bandhan Bank, Aapka Bhala, Sabki Bhalai. Knowledge partner, Grant Thornton Bharat.
Welcome back. Just in a short while from now, we'll get you the Finance Minister while speaking on the channel itself. So don't miss that exclusive interview. That's going to be there in a few minutes. By the way, for the time being, though, the Nifty has moved to the high point of the day. We're up 150 points. And the Adani Group stocks, they've seen a big recovery. Whether it's Adani Ports, Adani Enterprises, that was down 35% at the low point of the day. Now it's down closer to around 10% odd. ACC has moved into the green. Ambuja Cements as well has recovered a little bit. Question is, how long does this last? For the time being, though, the street is taking heart from that. But let's get in Vaibhav Sanghi, the co-CEO of Avendus Capital, who joins us. Hi, Vaibhav. Good afternoon. Well, let's get to the top discussion point itself. The Adani Group. The street seems to be a little bit nervous about it. And the stocks have corrected big time. Now, the street clearly is looking at the group with, a bit of a split out there. Adani Ports, ACC and Ambuja are different from the rest of the group. That's at least what the street thinks. What's your view on the group, and have any of these stocks coming to the value part now?
So, Nigel, the way I am kind of looking at is, that enough and more kind of is kind of mentioned about the whole episode, across the channels. Sometimes, it's kind of wise to kind of put it off, from our radar, while we are looking to a broader market. Unfortunately, what has happened is basically it got, amplified because of the persistent negative flows into India, which is partly because of shift from India to China amongst the emerging market basket. So, in my view, I think market is at a pretty good position in terms of the risk-reward ratio, and probably may see some amount of recovery, from year onwards. In the ground that the budget has been excellent.
Market will see a recovery, but any view on any of these stocks?
No, unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to comment on those kind of names specifically. But if the market is kind of, looking to go up, maybe the whole, every of them can kind of move in that kind of respect as well.
Vaibhav, do stay on. We've also got Mark Matthews of Bank Julius Baer and Company joining us on the show now. Mark, afternoon, and thank you very much for joining in. The Adani episode has grabbed global headlines. Do you think in any way it's tarnished India's image? We've seen the FI outflows continue, in fact, even exacerbate over the last couple of days, in the last 1 week since this issue has broken out. Your thoughts on how foreign investors are viewing the Adani Group and India ex of Adani?
Well, I'm glad these sorts of short sellers exist because very often the investment banks don't dare write anything critical about companies or countries. And so they serve a purpose. But on the other hand, sometimes they can create such a panic, such a furor, that you almost have a witch hunt, which is not good. And I feel like there's a bit of a witch hunt going on now, and it's impacted all of India. And I don't think it should. Now, specifically on the group, I have no way of knowing if the allegations are true. If truth be told, I must add, I haven't read the report from Hindenburg. I'm aware that some of the allegations involve inflating the books by using related parties. And I would simply say that's a very difficult thing to find out. Even SEBI would have a hard time knowing, trying to dig up behind Cayman or Mauritius companies who the real personalities are. But I would say the group has a lot of very good quality assets. It has a lot of money and it has a lot of potential sponsors. And I don't think it's going away. And on India broadly, I also don't think this will be a black mark on the country. As I mentioned, these short sellers, it's not the first time they've done this. I'm in Singapore. I saw them do that here on several companies. I mean, the names wouldn't be particularly important for you, but anyway, it didn't end up being a big black mark on Singapore Inc. And I don't think this will either for India Inc.
No, we've had many issues in the past, Mark, here, and the market moves on, right? I mean, it does take note and works its way through, and then when it moves on, as I think we're already starting to see now. I mean, you've got the market is up 1% or so on the Nifty. Banks are doing well. Vaibhav, what are you doing really in terms of your fund? What kind of trades are you taking? And is it more long than short?
No, I think yes. In terms of after navigating the volatility for about last 2 odd weeks, we do think that it's we've come to kind of level and stability where ideally our longs would be higher than our shorts. So in that respect, we would ideally wish to kind of increase our exposures on the long side. There are a lot of quality sectors and stocks available, especially in the liquid space, which we will have probably an eye on.
Okay. Mark, good afternoon. So take your point on Adani. What else are you buying in India, if at all? I mean, we've had a dip in January. It's continuing so far in February. What would you buy in India now?
Well, we're not adding or subtracting from India, but I would simply say that there's something else going on beyond this Hindenburg research report, which is rotation from last year's outperformers into last year's underperformers. And you can see that pretty much in every country around the world. Look at what happened with Facebook last night. And that was one of the big losers in the US market last year. I think it was up 30% or something like that last night. So because India did relatively well last year, it is underperforming this year. And I'm not surprised by that. But I do think that when we work our way a little more into the year, let's say we get to around the summer, then I think that sort of rebalancing will be over. And I still think India will have a good year on the whole. It might not be up as much as, say, a Korea or a Taiwan, which are these very cyclical kind of markets. But I still think that it can do about 10% from January 1st to December 31st of this year.
That'll be good news. So it appears a bit of a fling with the Chinese markets, but India is here forever. hopefully, that's the case that plays out in the next 2 years or so. But Vaibhav, in the past, you've said your preference is for domestic-facing themes. You've had a pretty good budget. Banks is something that you like, I think industrials and some consumption-related stocks. What's the preference now? And if you could tell us, in that sort of an order.
Look, in fact, Nigel, you're right. I think we continue to like, banks led by private banks. Also, in terms of industrials, looking at the capex kind of budget, which has been increased with a very decent amount. And last but not the least is basically because of the change in tax structures, at the lower end, we do think that more on the consumer staples is something which we can see some amount of demand recovery, along with some amount of rural recovery as well. So in that order is where we would like it. Just that the only thing is that we just need to see from a timing perspective that the FPI flows kind of get abated. And if that does happen, then we may see some sharp rebound back into banking and financials, purely because they have a good size weight in terms of their portfolio into these names.
All right, fair enough. Gentlemen, stay with us. We'll just have to take a quick commercial break at this point. Market doing very, very well. Lots more to discuss. We are back in just a bit.
When timeless European design meets cutting-edge technology, it's QO. QO, European bath lounges.
चाहे खरीदना हो अपना घर या हो रिटायरमेंट के लिए फाइनेंशियल प्लानिंग, मुझे फ्यूचर की कोई चिंता नहीं, क्योंकि मेरे पीछे SMC है।
SMC, money wise, be wise.
Investment in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.
अपने घर और कमर्शियल स्पेसेस को बनाइए अल्ट्रा मॉडर्न, इनोवेटिव, इको फ्रेंडली with quick installation. All this at the one-stop destination. Euro Pratik.
देखो 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 नया टीवी देखो. Aha! Got the veggies from Chotu's shop? He gives the right rate.
Yes, Papa.
Decided. 55-inch TV on this wall.
Oh, super. I'll write out the check tomorrow.
No, you don't. I will, with my own money.
Oh, wow. How come?
Look at this advertisement. 30% assured returns on investment. I am also going to invest my money.
So vegetables only from Chotu's shop, but investment advice from anyone? Papa, trusting a stranger's advice is never wise.
But what about the TV?
सोच कर, समझ कर, इन्वेस्ट कर।
रेणु, लोन हो गया। बस अब सिर्फ मार्जिन अमाउंट का सवाल है।
यूनियन बैंक से गोल्ड लोन लेकर होम लोन के मार्जिन अमाउंट का पेमेंट कर सकते हैं हम।
एक मिनट, तुम्हें कैसे पता? मैं यूनियन बैंक से ही होम लोन ले रहा हूँ।
पापा, हम अपने नए घर में कैसे रहेंगे?
अपनी नई कार में।
और ये कार लोन भी यूनियन बैंक ऑफ इंडिया से?
हाँ, अब घर और कार का सुनहरा सपना साकार।
यूनियन बैंक ऑफ इंडिया, अच्छे लोग, अच्छा बैंक।
When it comes to making your drive electric, never settle for the ordinary. Go EV with India's #1 EV, Nexon EV. Proven and trusted by over 40,000 customers. Feature loaded and safe, offering a premium driving experience. Now with enhanced range and an exciting new price. Nexon EV. Drive what drove India electric.
In our profession, it is common to be asked whether we're at the top or the bottom, will markets rise or fall? And the real answer always is it depends. If you look at the long range past, we are close to the top. And if you look at the long range future, we are close to the bottom. Just as in life, so it is in the markets. There's no top or bottom. There's no good or bad. There's no left or right. There's no right or wrong. There's only context and perspective. So why wait for black or white? The art is to learn to relax in the gray. While investing, you need not choose equity or debt. Markets are dynamic, and so must your mutual fund be. Choose grey, invest in White Oak Capital Balanced Advantage Fund.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risk. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
कल आज और कल में देश के हर पल में, कल आज और कल में देश के हर पल में। कभी परछाई बनके, कभी विश्वास बनके, दिल में साहस का एहसास बनके, उम्मीदों को सच्चाई के रंग से सजाते हैं, मुश्किलें कोई हरदम साथ निभाते हैं। कल आज और कल में रहते हैं, देश के हर पल में रहते हैं, कल आज और कल में रहते हैं, देश के
1956 से आज तक LIC हर पल आपके साथ।
Mac, you're with us in Closing Bell. Well, in the next couple of minutes, we will go live with that interview that we have with the Finance Minister. It's coming up just in the next couple of minutes. So let's squeeze in a few questions with our guests. Vaibhav and Mark are still with us. Vaibhav, let me ask you, when you're talking about the underperformance here in India, a few sectors have tried to sort of come to the forefront. There's IT to some extent. Consumer names have actually held out pretty well over the last few days. Your, ITCs of the world, or even Lever for that matter, Titan today. Do they find a place on the long side or the short side in your portfolio?
See, I think from a IT sector perspective, we've seen some nice bounce back in Nasdaq, primarily because of the possibly terminal rate, which we may we may see shortly on the US side, and because of which we have seen some amount of rebound in that. We have got some good correlation with the Nasdaq, with the IT performance, and that is why we've seen some amount of a recovery from the low levels. Having said that, in terms of the revenue, when we talk about in an environment where global growth is getting downgraded, our sense is basically if revenue pressures come about on these companies, you might start to see some amount of underperformance again. But we'll have to wait and see, on that. So that is where our view, especially on the IT, with respect to consumer companies. I think, as I mentioned, consumer staples looks pretty decent. And after this whole correction in terms of consumer discretionary, if there is if there is a possibility of revival in consumer spending, we may see these stocks kind of getting bottomed out. But I think that for that, we need to first wait and see the data, how it is panning out.
Vaibhav, any segments of the market where you are currently underweight or you've gone short in your portfolio?
So in terms of underweight, right, we are not very comfortable with the metal and mining space purely because, again, on back of saying that the global growth will get downgraded and the China recovery is not having substantial impact on the metal prices. So that's a pocket we may probably see underperforming for a while. And especially on a thematic basis, the stressed companies or the business models which are weaker is something which you would ideally be kind of, underperformer on. So in that respect, pharma is also one of those sectors where from a bottom-up perspective, there are opportunities to remain underweight.
Yeah, right. Vaibhav, hold on. Mark, what about the other big event today is we're getting the jobs report. Is it a done deal now that peak interest rate hikes are behind us, going by the commentary that we got earlier this week as well? 25 bips done. How many more are you baking in, and what are your expectations from the jobs report today?
We're not expecting any more rate hikes from the U.S., despite Chairman Powell trying to, say otherwise. So I think that, we are, however, seeing the light at the end of the tunnel with these rate hikes around the world. The Bank of Canada said they've stopped raising their rates, and I think Mexico and Brazil did some time ago. So the market is telling you that the rate hikes are just about done. And as for the jobs, I think it'll still be a strong number, but that's fine. Inflation is coming down.
By the way, I just want to point out that there's a big surge now underway in the market. We're at the day's high. For the better part, the market was kind of just struggling to remain positive. The second half has turned out to be much better. Right now, it's 150 points up on the Nifty. What's leading it? By the way, a couple of the Adani stocks, as we've been mentioning, there's been a very sharp reversal. Adani Ports in particular stands out. There's a 5% up move on that one. The banks have, of course, been leading from the front today. HDFC Bank, SBI ahead of its numbers, up to 2.5%. And some of the other major names like Infosys also pitching in. So all in all, it's looking like a good screen at this point in time. Mark, was there any sort of game changer for you in the budget in terms of specific outlook on either sort of any sector or any theme in India? Or do you think it's just the overall direction that sort of you were looking at?
Nothing that surprised us, except for the fact the fiscal deficit will remain about the same as it did last year. And we, like the rest of the market, thought that they would narrow the fiscal deficit. But that's not really a game changer. To my mind, there wasn't anything very surprising in the budget.
The other problem, guys, is earnings have been, I think, more down than up, right? Through the quarter, It is, I think we'll put out a piece later, maybe, coming Monday, looking at the aggregate Nifty earnings in terms of how estimates for 24 have changed. And I would strongly suspect that the numbers are, there are maybe meaningful downgrades which have happened. And if you expand the universe, not just Nifty 50, but you look at slightly larger group of companies, NSE 200, which will include a lot of the well-owned sort of liquid consumer names, which are not part of the Nifty. I think there it would be even sharper, actually. So it'll be interesting to see that aspect also. Mark, I don't know if you have any thoughts on how the earnings. I know it's bottom up and very, very micro. I know your broader view is very bullish India, but there is a slowdown, especially in the lower strata. There is a fair bit of slowdown. We had the management of Titan, for example, joining us, who spoke about it, and so many other companies have been telling us that. Your sense?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Prashant, I can't really comment on it, but the only thing I can say is that earnings historically have been among the most lagging of indicators, right along with stuff like GDP. So the analysts and the earnings don't tend to be what moves the market. The market's always thinking 6 to 12 months forward. I can't say much more than that. I apologize. Just look at, though, the earnings coming out of the U.S., which have been, I think, fairly mediocre, and so is the guidance, but that hasn't stopped the market from going up because the market's already starting to think about the second half of this year.
Got that. Vaibhav, any thoughts on the earnings bit? Have you guys looked at the numbers, etc.? How are 24 estimates moving?
See, I think, earning estimate, in my view, would probably get downgraded. Of course, this year we've seen some downgrade, but for 24 as well. As you start seeing, weakness from the global side, continuing. So, as against whatever, consensus forecast is, my sense is basically we would be lower by about 3 to 4% from the, consensus forecast. So there would be, likely some amount of pressure. But in spite of that, I think even if you grow anywhere between 12 to 15% in terms of the earnings, I think that would be pretty decent and decent number. Given that, from a PE perspective, we've corrected from their highs, and from a relative valuation perspective as well, vis-a-vis your emerging markets and vis-a-vis other indices globally, I think we are back to almost mean. So in that respect, I think we should start seeing some amount of flow coming back on the back of good, decent earnings performance.
Okay, so before we let both of you gentlemen go, Mark, I'll go back to that positive statement that you made on India, that we should see at least a 10% up move in the calendar year. If that were to be the case, what part of the market, what section of stocks do you think will lead it?
Well, I just sound like a broken record, but the sector that we have liked for some time now is banks, and Adani doesn't really change that very much. I mean, a little bit maybe for the PSU banks, but they weren't our preference anyway. So banks, but having said that, there's been such a lot of price changes, and I must confess I've been traveling during most of this. So it may well be that given some of these big corrections in prices, that it's time to look at some of the beaten up stuff. But I can't really speak on behalf of my company because I've been traveling, so I apologize for that.
All right.
Actually, when it comes to earnings, it's the consumption pack where it's been weak. Barring a one-off, right? Asian Paints was weak. That was hit on account of that monsoon in October. Pidilite, the volume growth was 1%, expectation 3 to 4. Jubilant FoodWorks, right? Like-to-like sales growth was less than 1%. Colgate was weak. So across the board, Titan margins were under pressure. So barring there were a few exceptions, like HUL was not bad, but broadly, the consumption pack had reported a fairly weak, Q3, and that's why you've seen some earnings downgrades.
Just one more point on Adani Enterprise. Whenever you see a stock falls 35%, you see it has to make up 55% to get back to break even. Both of that has happened today. Adani Enterprises is down 35%. It's made up the 55% from the lows, and it's
in the green now, right? It's in the green, and that is quite something. Absolutely. Is today the climactic kind of price action? Volumes are, by the way, since this entire saga started, volumes were highest yesterday. But there's still a full hour to go, and we're almost at yesterday's level. So I think by close 3:30, volumes on in cash would be higher than what we've seen yesterday on Adani Enterprises. Maybe we're going to look at other stocks there as well, ports, Ambuja Cements, etc. As well. I don't know if we have time for one more quick question. If Mark is with us, okay, Mark, just one point. You know, everyone's been worried about how this US slowdown will impact growth and earnings estimates, etc. But what if the US market is correct? And you've been saying that we won't get a big recession or anything, no big slowdown. You know, so for example, a country like India, exports for F524, I was looking at numbers yesterday, most economists are penciling in absolutely flat exports over F523, right? Because the expectation is that there will be a slowdown in the US and other regions. If that were not to pan out, I mean, we find ourselves very positively surprised, even on macros. Your thoughts?
Well, I must confess that our model for a recession has increased the odds of a recession dramatically since I was last on your show. So our own model is now showing over 50% chance of a recession in the US over the next 12 months. But I also think it'll be so mild that you'll hardly even notice it, like maybe minus 0.5% GDP growth. So given how everybody is expecting a recession, if there is only such a mild one, then yes, I think you're right. There could be upside surprise room in something like your exports.
Okay, all right, Mark. And perhaps that's something that the bond markets are already looking through, which could explain why yields are not surging anymore. Equities are doing fairly well. And even the dollar has been fairly benign. Thank you very much to both of you for joining in and taking us through your views in the market, the world, and of course, specifically in India. We'll take a break on that note. On the other side, we'll get you a lot more, including some trading calls, and then, of course, the most awaited and anticipated conversation with the finance minister.
Co-presented by LIC, हर पल आपके साथ. Driven by XUV 400, we fun, we fast, we electric. Co-powered by Panasonic, create today, enrich tomorrow. In association with Bandhan Bank, आपका भला, सबकी भलाई. Knowledge partner, Grant Thornton, Bharat.
Friends, I want to share some good news with all of you. Firstly, like always, we have performed very well this time also.
But what will we get?
Secondly, we shall invest in employee benefit.
Come on, now tell us what will we get?
And thirdly, we shall invest in LIC's group funded plans.
Great, we'll get everything. Now, leave encashment,
gratuity,
and along with pension, our future is secure.
Yes, employees' real benefit lies in LIC pension and group scheme.
देखो नया टीवी देखो. Aha, got the veggies from Chotu's shop. He gives the right rate.
Yes, Papa.
Decided. 55-inch TV on this wall.
Oh, super. I'll write out the check tomorrow.
No, you don't. I will, with my own money.
Oh, wow. How come?
Look at this advertisement. 30% assured returns on investment. I am also going to invest my money.
So vegetables only from Chotu's shop, but investment advice from anyone? Papa, trusting a stranger's advice is never wise.
But what about the TV?
सोच कर, समझ कर, invest कर.
When you live up to expectations, then winning people's trust is possible. And trust results in Bandhan, like Bandhan Bank, India's fastest growing bank. Bandhan Bank, aapka bhala, sabki bhalai.
When challenges put you off, you put life back on. Full on.
Life on with Live life now full on.
Begin your journey towards a healthy tomorrow with Omron today.
लो, आ गई.
मम्मा, और कोई ऑप्शन है क्या?
मम्मा.
लाइफ में और कहीं ऑप्शंस मिले ना मिले, मोतीलाल ओसवाल आपको देता है ऑप्शंस ट्रेडिंग में ऑप्शंस. इंट्रोड्यूसिंग मोतीलाल ओसवाल ऑप्शन स्टोर विद अ वाइड रेंज ऑफ ऑप्शंस इन ऑप्शंस ट्रेडिंग. एक्सप्लोर करो ऑप्शन स्टोर. Investment in securities market is subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.
It is time to power your world. Hyundai Ioniq 5, the all-electric SUV.
When our big boss was MD, he used to take care of us.
And our Prince Sahab is busy ensuring his family. Oh, big boss, you?
He's busy obtaining term insurance for his family. After all, office is also our family, am I right?
Let's close the deal. Thank you. Verma ji, will you have tea with this prince?
LIC's Group Term Assurance Plan takes care of your office family.
This is TV18 and you're watching CNBC-TV18.
Welcome back. It's 17,800. The markets are in fine fettle. It's a 200-point rally that you can see on the Nifty. The sensex gaining 650 points. But the much-awaited interview with the Finance Minister, Nirmala Sitharaman, is about to start. So let's quickly cut across to that. Okay, we will be getting to that in moments from now. That is what is on our radar. But before that, let's talk about State Bank of India, because State Bank of India is now at the high point of the day. It's gained close to about 3%. Numbers will be out anytime. Abhishek joins in with the key expectations.
Well, to begin with, it could be a record quarterly profit for State Bank of India. The key things to watch is that net interest margin will improve YOY and quarter. And it is about 5 to 15 basis point improvement in net interest margin, which is expected by analysts. So Kotak Securities estimates loan growth of 18% YOY and about 3% sequentially. Kotak also estimates a slippage of 7,500 crore. ICICI Securities has estimated a gross NPA decline of about 15-17 basis point, which could mean that you need to watch out for the recovery upgrade as well as the write-off, which takes place in the asset quality movement. The management commentary with respect to loan growth and outlook will be seen closely, and also comments with respect to Adani exposure will be seen closely. Watch list is at 8,500 crore and restructured book of about 27,300 crore. How they move will be seen closely. Our polls suggest NII growth of 21% YOY and about 5.3% sequentially. We are working with a profit growth of more than 61% YOY and about 2.5% sequentially. Back to you.
Okay, all right. Thanks a lot for that, Abhishek. By the way, just keep an eye out on Divi's laboratory. We have a con call that's currently underway. And I think, I read a flash where they said that the margins are likely to improve from year on. So let's try to pull that up. Some of those lines that were flashed for you on the screen, which is quite important. The big miss today was in terms of, their margins. And if that can improve, the street will take that positively. So let's get that up for you. I think they're guiding.
The lines are from Ekta. They expect the pricing pressure to ease up.
Yes.
And they expect the raw material price pressure to also ease up. And therefore, they're anticipating profits to improve on a quarter-on-quarter basis. So that ties in, right? Less cost pressure, margins, I guess, should improve.
Yeah, I think now we're getting that up for you on the screen. The input costs have softened to some extent, so that's positive. They're saying that the pricing pressure should soften as well. And going ahead, then maybe, in fact, margins could improve. And I think that's why a little bit of a rebound is what we're seeing from the low point of the day. The numbers were very, very poor, and that's why the stock was under pressure. But they're expecting profit to improve Q&Q. They're expecting margins as well to improve on a sequential basis. And I think the street will take note of that.
Absolutely. They've got cash in the books of nearly 3,850 crore. But as of now, the company is not planning to buy any injectable company or make any acquisitions. The stock down 12%. Remember, it's at a fresh 52-week low with the fall that we've seen today. But now with the statements coming in, the stock is trying to find a bottom and to move up. It was up. Even last year, the stock was down close to about 27-28%. Well, that's about Divi's laboratory. That's been one of the big drags in trade today. Apart from that, you've got HCC, which is locked in a lower circuit of close to about 20%. Another big story that we're tracking, which we've picked up from sources that have told CNBC-TV18 that LIC will be scheduling a call with the management of Adani Group to understand the company's strategy. Note this comes amid a massive sell-off seen in its shares. Yash joins in with the details. Yash?
Well, Rima, it was January 30th when we last spoke to our sources in LIC. At that time, they were very clear that they are long-term investors. They don't indulge in trigger buying or selling. And since then, in the last 7 trading sessions, there has been some ferocious selling in Adani Group stocks. We reconnected with our sources at LIC, and that sort of investment practice still remains intact. LIC says that they've not sold any shares in the Adani Group stocks in the last 7 trading sessions as well. And that is something which is not even on their plan as of now. What we are also given to understand from our sources in LIC is that LIC is likely to schedule a call with Adani management sometime next week. This will be to understand the strategy on business, the outlook on business, on debt, as well as what's happening with the share prices of various Adani Group companies. Adani, LIC has exposure to various Adani Group stocks, but out of the total 8 AUM, that stands at about just 0.97%. If you look at the equity AUM also, LIC's exposure to Adani Group companies is about 8%.
All right, Yash, we got that. Thanks very much for getting us the latest. Something that the market is going to watch quite carefully. The volatility has been intense on these stocks. By the way, before we move to the next story, just want to point out that Bank of Baroda is really reacting very well now. 5.5% to 6% is the move on BOB. Canara Bank, a couple of these other stocks from the PSU basket are also actually having a pretty good run. Bank of India, good day for the PSU financials. Some other names that are catching the eye, Zomato is having a decent run. Ashok Leyland is seeing some buying at least. And overall, the mid-cap market is subdued. It's still in the red compared to the Nifty. Mid-caps are under pressure. But you have these individual names. Karnataka Bank's numbers were very well received as well, 7.5% there. Avas Financiers, some of these financials have had a pretty decent session for themselves. But the Bank Nifty is the one. The big boys, that's the one that's really, really surging away right now. Remember, we are awaiting numbers from State Bank of India, and it is expected to be a record quarter for the big lender as well. And those numbers should be coming in over the next couple of hours as well. Bajaj